So for everybody that's out there that's listening, that's in your thing that you don't like, I'm not telling you to put your 2-week notice in and quit tomorrow. But what I am telling you is that the universe rewards courage and bravery. And that if you believe, if you have the passion enough and you're inspired enough to just never settle in a relationship that you're not happy with, in a career that you're not happy with, in a location that you're not happy with, there will always be, you're not going to die. That's what I learned when I lost everything. My electricity went out. All I had was gas in my stove. I had a $70,000 car parked out front. My business went underwater in 6 months. And you know what I realized as I was eating my pancakes by candlelight as a mortgage broker who was used to making really good money?
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't going to die. And that was freedom. Because if life could get that bad and that challenging, where I didn't even have enough money to put gas in my car, I wasn't going to die. I had family that loved me. If this is the worst it could get, and I laughed I had never laughed so deeply and so belly laugh in my life at how ridiculous my life had become so quickly. And I realized I wasn't going to die. And if it was that bad, I could conquer anything that came my way. We all have this fire that lives inside of us. Sometimes we just don't find our edge enough to be able to activate it. And I've been blessed to just have enough, just the right amount of challenging life experiences to show me that I'm the master of my destiny. And I have my creator behind me, whatever that creator is for anybody that's out there that's listening.
Yeah.
And it won't let us fail.
Yeah.
That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thoughts on Purpose podcast. I'm joined by a phenomenal new guest today, Brian Kelly. First of all, thanks for being here, brother. Like, I know we're just chatting. There's a lot happening in your world, but I want to tell the story of how our paths crossed. Thank you for being here, man. First of all.
Pleasure.
So I saw one of your ads pop up on my Instagram, and then it really got my attention. I was like, damn, that looks epic. I love the sound of it, the breath work, transformations you're doing. And I was just like, it's just not quite the right time. I've got so many loops I'm trying to close right now and just so much happening. I was like, I felt this pull within myself. And then I just sort of put it on the back burner. I was like, I'm going to get back to that. And then I spoke to one of my clients, and then she said, I'm really excited. I'm doing this breath work training. I was like, really? Oh, cool. I've actually been interested in breath. Which training are you doing? She's like, Breath Masters. I was like, damn. She's like, let me put you in contact with the guy. You can join the course. And I was like, this is meant to be.
I love it.
Yeah. Our paths crossed, and I'm just so grateful for the work you're doing and the way you've stepped into your purpose. So thanks for everything you do, first of all, brother.
My pleasure, bro. Thank you for having me. And thank you for the work that you are doing as well, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We're a little bit the same. We just like to speak from the heart, see where, I guess, the conversation leads us. And my intention is to support more people live their purpose here on earth. Brian, you have shared with me, well, first of all, let me just say a couple of things about you, because there's so much I could say, but kind of the things I want people to know. You know, you are a breathwork guide and teacher. You're the co-founder of Yogi Lab. You're a coach, and you're out there in Bali doing your thing. You're out just working your magic. You were just telling me you led this week a journey, I think 300 plus people. It's just epic stuff, brother. So talk to me about, because I've heard a snippet of your journey, and I was like, I don't want to go in too much because I want to hear it from you. Like, how did you set yourself out there in Bali? Because I know there's a bit of a story behind it.
Nash, hold on one second. I forgot to lock my door. My 3-year-old just ran.
It's fine, brother. It's absolutely.
Daddy's doing a podcast. You got to go. Daddy's working right now. Ibu, take him home, please. I'll come later, okay? He graduated preschool today. Sorry.
Oh, that's so good, brother.
The real world. All right. So the question was tell you a little bit about my journey of how I got here. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, gosh, boy, oh boy, it goes back a long way. Brevity is not necessarily one of my strong suits. So let me try to make a long story very short. My first taste of breath work actually kind of caught me off guard. I watched a YouTube video with Wim Hof back in 2015, 2016. And I had never heard of the Iceman or Wim Hof before. I never experienced any kind of breath work. It was just an interview that was happening on YouTube. And obviously everything happens for a reason, but I was watching it and he's like, all right, let me just show you how this works. And he did a little like 4 or 5 minute breathing practice. And then there was a breath retention at the end. And I just was like open-minded and I just sat in the breath retention. And I just remember holding my breath and being like, I've been holding my breath a long time and the breath hunger just wasn't coming. And I remember looking at my phone and my watch, whatever I was wearing, and it was like passing 3.5 minutes. And I think I held my breath for nearly 4 minutes. And wow. I had never been able to hold my breath for longer than 60 seconds, maybe maximum.
Yeah.
And so that was the original kind of light bulb moment for me. It's like I realized something magical was happening in my physiology and I felt amazing, but it wasn't the right timing. So it kind of sat on the shelf as something really cool that I was interested in, but I didn't actually do anything with it at that point.
Yep.
And then a few years later, as we were launching Yogi Lab, my other company, we got invited to do a breathwork journey by some really close friends. Lucas Mack is a massive breathwork influencer. He has a brand called Awaken Breathwork, and he's just magic. Him and his girlfriend Hella, good friends of mine. And we were in the very beginning of Yogi Lab, and we were going into this experiment. It was a 30-day body transformation experiment. We had this massive bodybuilder guy come over from Norway named Stian, and he's just this like epic human being, had all sorts of accolades, like NLP practitioner, health and wellness coach, all sorts of different coaches. He is like board certified clinical nutritionist, I think. And he just was just this amazing human. But when he came over, he was not the guy that we had seen in the photos. Like he was going through a really tough time. He had put on a little bit of weight. He was a little bit pale, still had that sparky kind of really cool personality, but he shared a story and he was just going through a really tough time in his life. What he shared with us is that in a very short period, he had a few friends and family get diagnosed with terminal cancer. His relationships were going through a very big challenge. He was suffering from anxiety, a little bit of depression. He was an insomniac. So he said one night a week he was powering down a bunch of Ambien just to be able to sleep one night a week so his nervous system wouldn't just completely fry.
Wow.
And so he said yes to come out and do this experiment with us in hopes that, you know, teaching and getting out of his environment would be good medicine for him. But he was in a pretty not so good place.
Yeah.
And so when we got asked to do this breathwork journey, he said yes. We all came. There was 8 of us. And as we got into it, we were in this circle. We were all laying down, and he just was within the first 5 minutes was just having what appeared to be like a full body exorcism. He was laughing, he was crying, he was shaking, he was moving. He was just massively somatically releasing also. I had no frame of reference for what he was experiencing. I just knew something big was happening in this moment for him. Wow. And I was a little bit distracted, but at the same time I was stoked for him, because I knew this was some serious energy that was being released from his body. And after it was done, it was like we did all a little round of talking and everybody got to share their experience. And he's still tears in his eyes. And I feel like everyone was just kind of waiting to hear what Stian had to say, because there was a lot of energy in the room. It was powerful, but this guy was the center, the epicenter of all of it. Yep. And what he shared was, he said, I remember it so vividly. He said, out of all the things I've ever done in my life, all the plant medicines, all the psychedelics, all the ayahuascas, all the meditation retreats, all the different things that he's done, and he had done it all. DMT, everything. He said, nothing was as powerful for me as that 1 hour of breathing. Wow. And I was just like, whoa, now talk about a testimonial, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking something's going on here. Yeah. And then when we saw him the next day, it blew my mind. It was like he went on a trip to the Caribbean for a weekend and came back with a different complexion. He just wasn't as pasty as he was. He was more vibrant. And he said, guys, that yesterday was something special. He said, last night I slept for the first time in months. I don't know how many months it was, but I slept for the first time in months all the way through 10 hours, not a single sleeping pill.
Wow.
And that was the pivot. That was the change in course that he needed to start getting his life back on track. And I was thinking, what the had he gone to doctors and psychologists and therapists, they would have had him on every medication under the sun for everything that he was experiencing. Sure, he was on the Ambien, but it would have been a lot more. And he was able to course correct breathing, doing controlled hyperventilation for an hour. And that was, for me, that was like, okay, what's going on here? Why aren't we teaching this in schools? Why isn't this a state approved medical treatment? Why doesn't everybody know? I wanted to stand up on the mountains and be like, guys, like everybody check this out.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those situations where I realized very quickly that if that's the world I wanted to live in, then I had to take responsibility and create it for myself and for the world. Yes. And it wasn't that much longer until synchronicities started happening and things started occurring. I haven't actually told this story. I'll tell another story. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, please.
I haven't told on many podcasts, so I'll debut it here. A very short period of time after, I was at Bali Spirit Festival. It was the annual yoga kind of meditation, personal development festival in Bali that they held every year before COVID. And we were there with our film team, and we walked by a breathwork thing that was happening, and they had a massive ice bath. And this isn't just a cold water bath. It was ice to the brim of this little swimming pool. Oh. And we thought, oh, wow, what a great opportunity to film some really epic content. So, of course, I'm the guy in the group that was like, who wants to do the challenge if you can do the ice bath the longest? That was me. And the guy that was facilitating, I'm not going to name him by name. He's like, all right, guys, like check this out. This has to be a controlled environment. The longest I'm going to let you guys do is 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I didn't know, I wasn't that familiar with ice baths at the time. That's a long time in an ice bath. And there was 5 or 6 of us in this bath. And I went all the way up to my neck, all the way up to my chin. So we get in this ice bath, and we're taking it very seriously. The cameras are on. I'm all the way up to my chin, right? And he said, put your hands over your heart. And to protect your temperature, but hands over my heart was full submersion of my fingertips, right? All my extremities. And so 4 or 5 minutes in, I was numb. I couldn't even feel it, right? It was like, it wasn't even cold anymore, which is dangerous. I didn't realize because as we got out, we hit that 8-minute mark and we popped out, and I had never been in such strange, uncomfortable pain. And I was like, I couldn't stop. I was going through hypothermia.
Wow.
And my hands were on fire. It was like 9.5 out of 10 extreme pain.
Damn.
And so I just like did everything I could to kind of heat myself back up and get back to normal. About an hour is what it took. But so my sensation.
In Bali. This is in
Bali. And as I was defrosting, I noticed that it was my left hand. I noticed that my fingers were still numb. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just give it 24 hours. I'm sure that I'm just defrosting, and this is going to be the last part, as you're defrosting meat and stuff. There's always that last part that's still a little bit frozen. I just figured that was my fingers. Next day, still numb. A week later, still numb. The entire end of my joints of my fingers were still numb. And after about 2 weeks, I was having a hard time typing on the computer because you need this sensation of touch and to be able to find the keys. And after about that much time, I was like, okay, I started to look it up, and there wasn't anything conclusive that I could find online. So I just went to Facebook, and I was like, look, this is the situation. Does anybody know how to handle this? And there was like a massive thread happened as a result. And then one guy said, I did a retreat with Wim Hof's brother not long ago, and I sent him your message, and he responded back to contact him. He might have some breathwork stuff that could help you with the numbness in your fingertips. Somebody else then responded, try lion's mane mushroom extract. It's great for nerve repair. So I got 2 really good big gold nuggets. So of course, launching Yogi Lab and getting put into contact with Wim Hof's brother, I was like, okay, that's an opportunity to potentially create a really epic collaboration. So I get on the phone with Marcel Hoff, and after 2 conversations, we had a 30-day breathwork retreat planned in Bali. And so I did some breathwork with him. And then we made an agreement that we brought him out to Bali. The lion's mane mushroom extract fixed my numb fingers in 48 hours. Believe that or not, it's true. That's what happens. Yeah. And as epic as the fingers being repaired were, I was more excited about the Hoff collaboration. And that was that was really the beginning. We brought him out here. We had 30 days. We had people every day for 30 days breathing. And I was able to just really deep dive into that world. And after that, I realized, okay, like I'm just going to be the breathwork guy from this moment forward. Right. It was enough changes, enough things were happening in my life for me to really be able to feel the effects of breathwork and the effect it was having on my mental state, on my emotional health. Yeah. Everything just got easier. You know, it was just like stuff wasn't upsetting me as much. My triggers were so much softer. Things were bouncing off of me that normally I would have let knock me sideways. Yep. And it was just one of those things where it was like, it became a life's mission very quickly after that. And the rest is history.
I love it, brother. I love it. It's so powerful. And so I'm curious, what were you doing before, because I'm like, this wasn't that long ago. Like how many years ago was this kind of thing?
This was almost 4 years ago now.
Almost 4 years ago. So you've been on this massive
3.5 years ago.
What were you doing before that? I'm curious.
Oh gosh. I showed up to Bali, man. I was a mortgage broker in my previous life, if you believe that, in California. Wow. I was in the real estate, and then the mortgage market took me out. When the real estate market crashed, I lost everything. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me so much perspective and what's really important in life, what my values really are, what I want to do with my life. But when I got to Bali 7 years ago, I came here. I had $312 to my name. I had no plan. I had no idea what I was going to do here. And it all started, I got invited to be a project manager for a construction project that was like an eco resort, sustainability resort that was being built. And so I kind of had odd jobs, but the universe was kind of steering me and guiding me. And I was just in a position where I was very blessed with a lot of faith that the universe was going to show me the way, and God was going to show me the way. And he did. And that led me through kind of random accounts, but nothing is random. I helped my buddy launch a tattoo studio called Karma House in Ubud that was doing really epic ceremonial tattoos and giving back to local charities. And that was where we were working when we were propositioned by David, the founder of the Astana and Yogi Lab, to launch Yogi Lab. So I've done it all, bro. I was a home security sales manager in corporate America for a year, which I absolutely hated. I've done different sales jobs. I've done all sorts of different stuff, man. But it took me going through all of those experiences and all those opportunities and career paths to get to the point where I finally found the thing that I'll probably be doing in some form till the day I die. And that's what I'm doing now.
I've heard you say, brother, that it's your dharma. I've heard you use that phrase before.
Yeah.
And I guess that's, for anyone who doesn't know, how would you explain dharma? Like, what does it actually mean to you?
Dharma is like your soul's mission, man. Yeah. It's like what you were called here to do.
Yeah.
It was, and you gotta, in my experience, I had to stumble through a lot of things. I had to, in child storybook terms, I had to kiss a lot of frogs in order to be able to find my princess, Yes. And that's what breathwork is. And that's what it does for me in my life. And so it's very easy. It's one of those things, like when you finally find it, you just know it. It's just like, there isn't any, is this the thing for me, internal dialogue anymore. It's just like, this is the thing. Yeah. And I'm 41 years old. So it took me 37 years of my life to land on it. So let that be a beacon of hope for anybody that's out there that's in their 30s or in their 40s or even in their 50s that are still trying to find it. Yeah. There's that thing that's out there for everyone. I truly believe it. And it's only when we stop searching and give up that we close the door on finding it. And so to have found it now, it's like, so massive relief.
Yeah, and you've fully stepped into it as well, which is just so cool. And one of the reasons why I wanted to chat to you, because that's why I run this podcast, is purely to give other people permission to go and allow themselves to seek for more and to open themselves up to more. I'm not too sure if you know any of my story, Brian, but, I was a combat medic at 17, worked in the military, saw, attempted suicides in hospitals, like young people. And I was just like, man, I had to do something more. And so this work I'm doing here, like it's all to make sense and actually do my part to contribute to what I saw and actually save people from going down that path. There was a reason I saw that too. So I love hearing what you're sharing, brother. So talk to me about, because I'm thinking right now, I like on the podcast to kind of play that person who's a bit skeptical, and I like to play their role. I'm like, Okay, Brian, sounds fun. Good for you. You're out there in Bali, man. I'm in a really job right now. I'm in a really job, and like, I feel like just giving up on life. Like, I feel like it's just crap. Like, why should I keep going? And how do I keep going? What's a perspective that I should take on that will allow me to keep going?
That's a really good question. And I feel like sometimes it just takes a lot of courage. I just love that jump and figure out how to fly on the way down. It's like we've all been there. I've been in so many shitty jobs that I don't like. And I just got to the point where I realized, all right, so another story. It's like, let's not make it hyperbole. Like in 2011, 2010, and I think it all started in 2010. I was 4 months past due on my rent. I had no job. I had no car. And I had my girlfriend and her 4-year-old son living with me, and she didn't even know how I didn't even tell her that we were 4 months late on the rent. No idea what I was going to do. But you know what I had? I had a lot of faith. I had this, I believed full stop. I believed that everything happens for a reason. Yeah. Now I believe just like there's either unconditional love or there's no love. It's no like kind of, sometimes I believe it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I believe everything happens for a reason, but every once in a while something happens that I don't. I believe I'm one of those lucky, blessed humans to believe that no matter what feels like it's going sideways, everything happens for a reason. So I had that attitude. Yeah. And so I was really open to trying to figure out how am I going to be able to navigate through this. And I remember finding this book, and I didn't even read the whole book. I read the book summary, and that was enough. And it was a book called 29 Gifts. And this book was written by a woman named Cammie Walker, and it tells the story of her journey. She was in Hawaii. She fainted on her wedding day. She was rushed to the hospital. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, massive debilitating disease, right? And very short period of time, she was struggling on every level. Her career was going to shit. Her relationship was unraveling. Her health, she was in a wheelchair, lost sight in her eye. No idea what she was going to do. It was just like ready to cash in her chips and just call it a day. And she talked to one of her friends. She's like, I know this amazing shaman. She lives in Hawaii, and maybe she's got something that can help you. And she was like on her last income, and she's like, anything. I'll just try anything. Yeah. So she gets on an airplane. She goes out there and speaks to this woman, and this woman brings her in, and she said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to give you. You're going to go back home, and for the next 29 days, you're going to give a gift to someone for 29 days. And then after, you're going to come back and you're going to tell me about it. And she's like, what the did I just waste my money to come all the way out here for you to give me this load of crap? And she got on an airplane angry, went home, and it didn't take her long before she realized I got nothing else to lose. Might as well see what this is all about. And so she started giving. She started doing little acts of kindness and giving. And would you believe it, by the 29th day, she was walking again. She regained eyesight back. All her multiple sclerosis symptoms went into remission. She got her life back. What happened? She shifted her focus of her perception on her own struggles, her own issues, her own challenges in her life, started projecting love and gratitude and generosity and bringing that into the lives of others. And just that shift in where she was putting her energy healed her. She wrote a book called 29 Gifts, started a movement to get people to take this challenge and hopefully manifest the kind of experiences that she had as a result of doing this thing. And what a better time for me to find this book, right? Or even the book summary. Yeah. So I was like, this is it. And I was like, you know what? I went out, I didn't have very little money. So my first gift was I started delivering anonymous like notes of appreciation, like almost little love letters, gratitude letters to all my neighbors. It was like I would buy little cheap coffees at 7-Eleven for the homeless guy. It was like anything I could find. And you know what happened? Those gifts ended up being the most exciting time of my day. Because you have to really think about it. It's like you can't just go through the whole day. You have to plan it. It's got to be like a thing. Because you could get to the end of the day and realize, I just didn't do my gift today. And you got to come up with something. Mm-hmm. And so it could just be like messaging an old friend, hey, we haven't talked in a while. I just want you to know I've made a big impact on my life. I love you. Things like that. And those are gifts too. Okay. I had to find things that were cheap. I had very little money to my name. And would you believe it if I told you that by the 23rd or 24th day, I had a good paying job. I had a car, and I had gotten bailed out on my rent all through this period, all through this process.
Wow.
Yeah. And some of the stories that happened in there, giving stories, would just blow you away. I might have time for a couple if we get to the end. You can ask me, but it was enough for me to go, whoa. And that was the game changer. I got a job in corporate America. So it wasn't the best job like that I was excited about because I'm an entrepreneur, but it was a good paying job, enough to put like a decent paycheck in my pocket to get me back on track. Yeah. And it was a miracle that I got it because they had never hired anybody from the outside for the sales manager position. So they interviewed me 6 times. They always recruit people from within. Wow. And so I shouldn't have gotten that job. And so it only took me, that's half the story. It took me 6 months to realize I am not built for corporate America. Yep. I do not enjoy this work. I do not like it. I'm grateful that it got me out of the sticky situation that I was in. And around the 11th month, I met a guy at the same yoga studio that I went to do yoga named Jake Ducey. And Jake was this young, inspiring, recently published author. He had just published his first book at like 23 years old. And his very quick story was that he was unsatisfied on his journey to become a professional basketball athlete and got into a car accident. It kind of woke him up, and he decided to quit his school and quit that path and travel around the world on $8,000 without a map in search for life's purpose. I got 10 pages into this book on my way to a yoga retreat in Sedona, Arizona, and I realized, fuck. Yeah. I got to quit my job. And that was it. I knew it was like, I couldn't go back on it. I knew it. It was something that was like so obvious. And it was a really challenging thing to do because the guy that gave me this job, he put a lot of stock in me. He made me look him in the eye during the interview and say, tell me into my eye that you're my guy for the long term. And I was like, oh. And inside I kind of knew that I'm not going to be, and I was like, I'm your guy for the long term. I said it, and I was like, oh, I knew what, but I did it, and I said it anyways. And so I liked this guy. He was an amazing boss, so I didn't want to let him down. So I had to come up with a very compassionate, loving way of putting in my 2-week notice. So I bought 2 copies of this book. And so when it was that following Monday after the retreat, he's walking by and all happy, coming in as he always was. He's like, BK, what's up, man? How was your trip? And I was like, yeah, come into my office, grab a seat. So I can tell you about it. And I'm sweating bullets, right? I remember the day I had a light blue dress shirt on, and the armpits were like dark blue completely because I was sweating so bad, right? And I sat him down and I pushed the book across the table very kind of theatrically. And I said, look, man, I hope that when you read this book, you'll understand why I have to put in my 2-week notice today. Wow. And he looks at me and he goes, you're leaving me, BK? And I was like, you know what, man, I really appreciate this opportunity today, but I feel like the world has bigger calling for me, and I feel like it's going to be very challenging for me to do that here. And as much as I'm grateful, I feel like I really need to go, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Yeah. And he looked down for like, it was a minute, but it felt like an eternity. Yeah. I'm like, I just crushed this guy. He's going to have to find somebody new. And he looked back at me, and I won't forget it. He said, you know what? I had a feeling that you were made to do bigger things. And I could sit here and I could tell you that you have a job waiting for you if it doesn't work out, but I'm not going to give you that safety net. I want you to go. I want you to spread your wings, and I want you to fly and do your thing and make your impact. And I'm just like, tears in my eyes. I'm goosebumps still with the story,
Go, brother. Like this.
And I was like, and that was like the universe telling me you're on the right track. And once everybody found out I was leaving, they're like, what do you mean you're leaving? No one believed it. They're like, why would you leave 401k, all these things? You have a great job, amazing benefits. You have your own office. You kind of do your own thing. Yeah. It was a great corporate America job, but it wasn't my passion. It wasn't my calling. And they all thought I was full of shit and leaving to work for the competition because they just couldn't believe that I would leave a job like that. I had $8,000 to my name, the same amount of money that Jake Ducey traveled around the world without a map with. Yeah. And I had no idea. I had no job. I had no plan. I had no clue, just like how I got to Bali, except when I got to Bali, I had $312 to my name. Mm-hmm. What did I have? I had enough courage in my heart to follow it. Yeah. That was it. That's all I had. And I had my faith. That was it. That's all I needed. So for everybody that's out there that's listening, that's in your thing that you don't like, I'm not telling you to put your 2-week notice in and quit tomorrow. But what I am telling you is that the universe rewards courage and bravery.
Yes.
And that if you believe, if you have the passion enough and you're inspired enough to just never settle in a relationship that you're not happy with, in a career that you're not happy with, in a location that you're not happy with, there will always be, you're not going to die. That's what I learned when I lost everything. All my electricity went out. All I had was gas in my stove. I had a $70,000 car parked out front. My business went underwater in 6 months. And you know what I realized as I was eating my pancakes by candlelight, as a mortgage broker who was used to making really good money?
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't gonna die, and that was freedom.
Yeah.
Because if life could get that bad and that challenging, where I didn't even have enough money to put gas in my car, I wasn't going to die. I had family that loved me. If this is the worst it could get, and I laughed I had never laughed so deeply and so belly laugh in my life at how ridiculous my life had become so quickly. And I realized I wasn't going to die. And if it was that bad, I could conquer anything that came my way. We all have this fire that lives inside of us. Sometimes we just don't find our edge enough to be able to activate it. And I've been blessed to just have enough, just the right amount of challenging life experiences to show me that I'm the master of my destiny. And I have my creator behind me, whatever that creator is for anybody that's out there that's listening.
Yeah.
And it won't let us fail.
Yeah.
That's it. Failure only happens when we give up. As long as we keep trying, there's no such thing. Only feedback. No such thing as failure, only feedback.
Man, I agree 1,000%. Thank you for sharing, Brian. There's so much in that. That's pure gold. And I agree 1,000%. And life gives you these crazy difficulties sometimes. Tomorrow is our little daughter's birthday. She's the third birthday. And when she was born, we were told just after her birth that she had 3 serious holes in her heart. And we had to go and navigate all of that after having 2 healthy children. And it was such an upheaval for us. And our experience of, or our expectation was completely shattered. We thought it would just go like the other children. It was radically different. And we just we had no other choice but to surrender to that. And we, thanks to the work I was doing, I was like, we can either be used by this and let this crush us, because I was building my business. It was at such a pivotal time. And I was like, crap, this is the last thing I need. Like, how do I find it within myself? But like you said, it's just pure faith. If you can cultivate that, and I guess that would be my next question to you, Brian. How do you cultivate faith? Like, if someone's like, I don't know if I've got it within me. Like, how do they start cultivating it? Because I love the contribution piece. Like, that's massive. Anyone can go and start doing that. And you did it when you were like down and out. How does someone cultivate faith?
Man, that's a really good question. You know, it's funny. Faith just comes. I'm blessed that faith just comes so naturally for me. My journey of spirituality has been all over the place, but I've come to a point in my life where I realized that faith, even though I wasn't quite sure of what I was there was always some higher power that I believed in that was at play and working through me in my life. And so it's never been something that I really had to cultivate. It was always just there. It might have been as a result of the environment I grew up in with my family and all the love I was blasted with. I was just a very blessed child. We didn't have a whole lot. Financially, things were very challenging, but what I had in absolute abundance was just so much love by everyone. And I didn't appreciate it at the time. I thought it was smothering. And looking back at it now, it's the best gift I could have ever been given coming into this world, having that as the foundation. So I feel like if I didn't have faith, the way that I would cultivate it is just by simply going within and allowing myself to be able to just spend time in meditation with myself and just allowing whatever it is that I feel to just do its thing and make a personal practice. You know, I feel like people are all over the place because they don't have something that they can invest their energy into that is a constant, that they can just lean into when things get challenging.
Yeah.
And so for some people that is meditation, for some people it's breath work, for some people it's going to the gym, for some people it's some kind of a spiritual practice, spending time in meditation, spending time in prayer. And just knowing that we're not alone. Like, there's a driving force. There's some creative potential out there that's driving our lives. And unless you sit still and try to figure out your connection with how to make a nodal point to be able to connect in with that, then you're going to feel like you're just driving a solo mission with no one behind your back, if that's the life that you feel like you're living. And so cultivation of practice, meditation, prayer, and then some form of philanthropy. It has a funny way of bringing that in. You know, when we did Karma House, you know, I knew that I wanted, at that point, I was at that point in my life where I knew that whatever I did, I wanted it to have an impact on my community and people that were less fortunate than me. And there's no better way to utilize your energy during hard times than to shift, just like that book 29 Gifts says, to generosity and to caring. We were so good at becoming the center of our own universe that when we get there, we're just so wrapped up in our world through our perspective. And that has a tendency of helping, of getting people very lost on their path. So I guess that if I were to give an answer and having to cultivate it, that's probably where I would start. Finding a practice, finding a routine, finding something to invest my energy into so that I can feel like no matter how crazy the storm gets, I can come back to something that's solid.
Yes.
And there's plenty of options to explore for any individual out there, and that there's no shortage really.
Yeah. Great answer, brother. And all those practices you're talking about, I see them like plugging your phone in. Like that's it. It's a meditation. It's a mindfulness. It's connecting to yourself. And you connect to yourself not for the sake of like, that's not the ultimate outcome. The ultimate outcome is to connect to yourself so you can impact, so you can share your gifts. But you're right. You do need to sit with whatever's present for you and actually be with the body. And beyond that, like whatever energy force you believe is beating your heart. I've always said that, like connect to the energy force that's beating your heart. And then when I did your course, I learned beyond just beating our heart, like we're being breathed as well. Like when I heard you say that, I was like, that is just so cool. Like, it's phenomenal. And that same energy is rising the sun right now. That same energy is growing the grass right now. You can rest into that superpower at any time. So I love what you shared there, brother. If you were to walk into a park right now, Brian, just in your mind, and a little visualization for you, and you were to see a young boy, maybe 7 years old, sitting on the bench, and that was a version of you at 7, and he looks at you and you look at him and you have this beautiful connection, you know one another and you connect with one another. What do you think would inspire that 7-year-old boy most about the man you are today?
What could I share that would inspire him most about what I've experienced in my life to this day? Or what would I tell him?
What would inspire him about the man you are?
Most likely it would be that my mission really is just impact and change as many lives as I possibly can. And I feel like a lot of people say that and few people mean it and back it up. And I don't mean to set myself aside from anybody that's out there doing the real work, but unfortunately there's a lot of people that are living outside of their integrity. And I can look in the mirror every day without any kind of reservation that I truly am deeply inspired to make an impact and help people shift their perspective and change their lives in positive ways. That I'm driven by that. And I will literally live the rest of the days of my life out with that being the fire that drives my life.
Yes.
And I feel like if I could figure out the magic fairy dust that would allow me to impart that upon children and others, then that would be one of the greatest gifts that I could give to this world, because it comes from so deep down inside. It's so real, it's so raw, it's so genuine, it's so authentic. And I just got a lot of love for people, man. I have my parents to thank. That I like, when my favorite part of my online sessions is the end, because I just get to beam everyone with so much love, and they are in a place where they're open enough to just fucking receive it. And it's so real. And I cry almost after every single one of my journeys. I get tears in my eyes because people finally meet themselves without the filters of self-judgment and self-deception and beating themselves up. And they can love themselves and see themselves so clearly. And I get to see and reflect that back to them when they're in a place of no conscious mind intervention. It's the greatest gift that I could possibly give to someone is just letting them know and feel that they're not alone, that they're powerful as fuck, that it's okay to love themselves, that should be the most important focus of their lives, and that I love them as much as they that have the potential to love themselves. These are the kind of things that you just wish that you could snap your fingers and teach this kind of emotional intelligence in school, because I'm a lot more emotionally intelligent than I am IQ intelligent.
Yeah.
My EQ, I'm blessed to have a really high EQ naturally. And this is how world change actually happens, when we activate ourselves with this understanding that we're all connected, that we're all amazing, that we have so many gifts, and that we're all special in our own way, and that there's just so much abundance of love that we can literally shift the game of how this planet operates so quickly. And the way that we do that is by getting people to get out of their own way, out of their own head, start listening to their intuition more, trusting that deep inner voice more, following their highest excitement more. That's one of my favorite quotes. Follow your highest excitement. That's what's going to take you to the target that you're aiming for. The excitement is the barometer that we're moving in the right direction. Yes. And we are not made to be office cubicle workers working some shit job in order to be able to get to some future imaginary moment where we can retire and be happy because we've survived 40 years of doing something that we hate. That's just absolute insanity. No, it's like, follow your highest excitement. Do whatever it takes to keep shifting gears. I changed my major in university 5 times. I left knowing what I wanted to do with my life less than when I went in.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's only a matter of just having the courage to just continuing to pivot as long as it takes. I love Gary Vee because he's like, if you're 30 and you're still trying to figure it out, you have so much life left. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself.
So true.
You know, just be kind, have love in your heart, keep taking swings at the bat, keep making moves, and the universe is going to reward you. That's just how it works.
1000%. Love that answer, brother. And beyond your 7-year-old version of yourself being inspired, I'm inspired as well. I love that answer. So powerful. There's so many questions I want to ask you, my friend, and I feel that I just want to. I want people to grasp from this conversation, you know, some practical things that they can start doing. Like, I love what you've shared so far, but some practical things they can do. So once they connect to something like a deeper calling for their life, maybe they start sitting down and they're like, wow, there's more to this, and actually find I know what I'm excited about, like Brian said, and they connect to that. What are some things that they might experience on the path, potential hurdles that you see a lot of people, because I know you coach people as well as the breath work, like it kind of goes hand in hand. I've got some certain things that pop in my mind, but I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are some hurdles that, because it seems like life sends you little, I don't know if it's tests, I don't know if it's opportunities, I see them as opportunities, but there seem to be some consistent challenges that people, or tests that people get. What are some things that might potentially trip them up when they start stepping?
There's a couple. Oh, there's so many, but let's just narrow it down to a few primary ones.
Yeah.
First of all, a lot of the times is like you find something you're excited about, you're not quite sure where to start, so you don't even start. You know, It's just like you sit on something, you want to do it, you're not quite sure, and then people delay starting for the perfect timing. The perfect timing never comes, so they miss out on a potential opportunity to do something great, be something great, so they just never start. That's usually what trips people up right out of the gate the most. Then when people actually start, what usually happens next is you realize you suck at something, and so you might do something for a week or a month, and then you don't become much better at it. You know, it's like, I guess a good practical example of this is, you know, I decided 18 months ago or so that I wanted to learn how to play the piano. I just wanted something to do with my free time to kind of meditate and have a thing. And so I invested in a keyboard and an iPad, and I got the Simply Piano app. And it's like, you sit down, you don't know where the keys are. It's like, it's like learning how to type for the first time. You got A's here. Now it's like, I type so fast. You've been doing it for so long. Yeah. And loving the process and knowing that we all start in the exact same spot, and whatever we do, we suck at it. Some people will have natural talent. It's something that will show early. Most people don't. It has to be cultivated, And so it didn't take long. 60 days in, I was playing chords. I was moving up and down the piano. I was putting in 30 minutes to an hour of practice every single day, and I sucked. I sucked at it. Yeah. But I loved the process. I love the process of just learning and then just being sucky and letting that be okay. And it's like, it's one thing when you're learning an instrument where it's like a creative kind of like hobby thing, but it's a whole nother ballgame when you're trying to do something for your career and you really suck at it. That can be a lot more mentally challenging. But the same philosophy applies. Yeah. You start, you hustle, you keep going, you don't give up, you have the grit, you have the determination. On days where you don't want to do it, you just do it anyway. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're okay at it. And then okay turns into pretty damn good at it. I was like, when I guided my first breathwork stuff, like I announced a 7-day challenge. Like I had the beauty of having a relatively decent size email list with Yogi Lab, and so I wasn't really expecting a whole lot. I was like, I'm just gonna jump in and I'm gonna get uncomfortable, and I'm just gonna do this 7-day challenge and see what happens. And it was just another example of me being like, you know what, I'm probably gonna flop, and I'm gonna smack my face on the ground, and you know what, I'm gonna take that and I'm going to let it help me become great. And that was the attitude that I had going in. And when I put the challenge out, 3,883 people signed up for it.
Wow.
Live for 7 days. So I couldn't pre-record anything. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't even know how to play internal audio on the computer. I was literally playing Spotify music from my phone into the microphone on my computer. And you know what happened? The first 3 minutes of the first live session was a train wreck.
Oh, really?
And it was like, it was a train wreck. It was an absolute train wreck. Like I got really nervous. I wasn't quite sure what to say. I did my best to get through it, but something happened with the live. So we had to cut it. And we were like, all right, we're just going to come back. Guys, I really apologize. We had some issues with our tech. We're going to come back. And you know what? I came back for the second swing at the bat. Yeah. And I crushed it because I got the first one out of the way.
Yeah, good work.
I came back and I crushed it. And I was so confident that I crushed it that every other day for the next 6 days, I kept crushing it. Yeah. And then by the 7th day, I was confident as fuck early. So I had a bit of a gift. I have the gift of gab. I know how to communicate. I can hold the energy of a space. I kind of have that. But it wasn't like I had materialized it. It was something that I still had to work on. I wasn't great, but I was good enough. And some people that were just watching it for the first time, a lot of them probably would have said that was most of them said it was an amazing experience. And it was that. And I'll make myself vulnerable at this point. I wasn't even certified as a breathworker at that point. Wow. I just was practicing breathwork on my own. And I was like, I can teach this. Like, I can teach people how to do this safely. I'll give all the contraindications that I'm told are the issue. And I can do this. I can do it safely. Mm-hmm. And that was such a hit. Those 7 days, like I built such a tribe. There was such a community around it. There was so much support around it. People like, you changed my life. And here I am, this new guy on the block being like, what did I do? I just gave you this little breathing technique. And I still have like 150 written powerful testimonials to this day that I use for stuff. All right. And after that, I was like, shit, I got to get certified. Like I need to have the accolades or people aren't going to take me seriously. Yeah. And so I went and got certified. And that was like, okay, it was very clear that I was on the right path, but it's like, that's a good example of just going in and doing something and letting it be okay that you're going to suck, you're going to fail, all this. It's just we get so caught up inside of our own heads, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And it's like imposter syndrome is a toxic cancer. Mm-hmm. We're not qualified. Most people that teach things, a lot of the time, they're not qualified when they start.
Yep.
But everybody has to start somewhere, you know, unless you go to get a PhD or you get this, you know what I mean? You do this 8 years of school or whatever it is. When you start as a coach, your first client, you're not really qualified to coach them. I'm sorry, all you coaches out there that did a bunch of pre-work, but that's the reality. Yeah. You're not my first coaching client. I knew I'm not qualified to coach this person, but you know what I had? I had fucking life experience, man.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And that life experience was enough for me to feel like I have enough that I can impart upon someone to give them some knowledge to be able to give their life value. Yes. And I was able to talk the imposter little guy that hangs out over here down enough to be able to just go in and do it. And that's it, man. It's like that. Approaching anything in life can be that easy. Mm-hmm. And we create these complex webs of stories. It's like the stories, the illusions, the lies that we tell ourselves. Thoughts aren't facts. They are not facts. There's no factual basis for the crazy imaginings and the thoughts that keep us playing small and limited. They're just stories. They're not true. And when we have the ability to zoom out and look at the thoughts that we have as the imposters that they really are, we can brush them away a lot easier and not let them take ownership of our life.
So powerful, brother. Thank you for sharing. I loved all of that. What would you say has been a massive fear that you've overcome or something like a limiting belief that you've broken through in your life? The one in particular.
I guess my biggest limiting belief for most of my life is that because I bounced around so much, I never spent enough time at pursuing mastery in any one area. Mm-hmm. And so my limiting belief was because I didn't do that, I'm not a master in any area, so I'm not good enough. Mm. I'm not good enough. I don't have, I was always very envious of the kids who were forced, maybe even unwillingly to pursue their sports at a young age or pursue their instruments at a young age. And as a result, they might not have liked it at the time, but they're happy that they have that discipline and they're really skilled at something. Uh-huh. And I felt like I just wasn't really skilled at it. I was a jack of all trades and master of none.
Yes.
And that affected a lot of what I did and my belief in myself and everything else. And I crushed that once I found breathwork. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like I can honestly look at what I do and say, wow, I'm actually pretty fucking good at what I do. Yeah. And I put the time in and I practiced and I became a student first and I just did a lot of breathing and that limiting belief is but a distant memory. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't control anything in my life anymore. And but I needed to go through, it's like we all have these things. We all have these limiting beliefs we're carrying around. You've been through my program. That all the stuff that we're carrying around, generational trauma, cellular memory, all the stuff from our childhood, soaking up all of our parents' actions, behaviors, thoughts, emotions, how they lived in the world, how they made decisions, how they loved each other or failed to love each other. We're carrying all this shit around and it's taking over our lives. And we think that we're just fucked. Well, guess what? We are. But everybody is. Yes. We're not alone. Everybody's fucked in some way. You know how many sessions that I've done with people that from the outside looking in, you'd say, wow, this guy has his shit together. Like this guy's done the work. He's done so much self-work. He's accomplished. He has all this material success. He's making an impact. And then you get him in to do, I'm not going to name any names, and you get him in to do breath work and their childhood comes up just like everybody else's. Yep. And they cry like babies. And they didn't realize that there was so much they were carrying around down there. And they're honest about what they're actually experiencing, that's not public facing. Yeah. Guess what? We're all fucked. Yeah. So there's camaraderie in there. We're all in it together. It's like if I can come out on the other side of everything that I've struggled with in life, then anybody can Anybody that looks around and says, well, they did it because this or they did it because that. I came from very humble beginnings, man. I remember standing in the welfare line for free cheese at 4 years old. I just thought that's where everybody got their cheese, that the government gave it to you. You know, I had nothing was given to me. I had to earn every bit of it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It took me 41 years to do it. I'd do another 30 if I wasn't where I am now.
Yeah. Far out. I love that, brother. So powerful. I've had 2 clients recently say to me, when do we get to stop doing the work? They're like, when does this stop? And they actually said it to me because they're like, this coaching is really intense. When do we stop? Like, when have I reached that point where it just gets easier? And this is like, no. You become stronger, you embrace it. Like I said to you, I've been doing breath work for 88 days, pretty much straight now. And every day it's like something new. And I've done so much. I've invested over 300,000 on my own personal growth, mentors and masters working with me. But it's just, there's always another level. And that's, thank goodness for that. It's like life is like the ultimate personal trainer. It never lets you off the fucking hook. You know what I'm saying?
Ever. That's why I say inside my journeys, don't stop asking for things to get easier. Ask for yourself to get stronger. So no matter what comes up, you have the ability to get through it. You know, all growth, all change, all transformation happens outside of our comfort zone. We just have to be able to tap into our superpower of just finding a little bit of comfort in the discomfort. It sounds like a paradox, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's like I get bored if I'm not comfortable enough.
Yeah.
You know, I just get bored. It's just something feels stale. It's like I want to invite. You know, I just stood on a bed of nails for 2.5 minutes, and it was. I'll show them to you right now. Right?
Yeah.
2.5. You know, and it's like 30 seconds on these things is painful.
Wow.
And it's like they say once you get into 12 minutes on these things, you start processing deep emotional old traumas and all sorts of things.
All right.
And so it's if I start getting bored, I'll stand on nails. It's like maybe it's just part of my archetype that I'm a thrill seeker that is looking for opportunities to be uncomfortable and fall on my face in order to grow. You know, but maybe that, I don't know if that came naturally or that happened later, but the reality is that we have the ability, there's so many opportunities for us to explore and find our edge in order to be able to manufacture growth experiences that boredom it should never be an option.
Yes. Yeah. I love how you balance both those worlds, Brian. Like you can sit there and you can do these beautiful still breathing techniques, these peaceful experiences and the intenseness, but you can balance it with this like just full on go energy. Like you can't get bored. And I resonate with that 1,000%, brother. Like to be able to and I used to be just one-sided where I was just go, and I kept getting smashed, but now learning how to balance it with the right practices, it's so powerful.
You got to have the yin and the yang.
You do.
Or else you're gonna. It's just like you can't do deep dive transformational breathworks all the time. You got to balance that out with slow parasympathetic rest and digest, everyday breathing. You got to come back to your center. You got to quiet your mind. You got to be able to be still and to be able to meditate. And I'm not standing on the bed of nails all the time. You have to have that, or life is just going to feel completely out of balance.
So true, brother. So true. Brian, do you have time for a couple of last questions? Are you good for a couple more minutes?
I got time, brother. Let's do it.
Oh, excellent. So question I ask all my guests is, do you believe everyone on earth has a purpose?
100,000% without any kind of stall on that question, yes. Mm-hmm. We don't incarnate on this earth if we didn't have some kind of a purpose. The problem is that as I see it, and people get tripped up, is they look around them at these really extreme humanitarian missions of creation, and they say that person's living their life with purpose, and because my purpose might feel a little bit stronger, it's not as legitimate. And that's bullshit. Some people's purpose might just be to be an amazing parent to their children so they can grow up and do something amazing with their lives. Mm-hmm. Someone's purpose might be they might love sweeping floors, and they just get so much joy and passion out of just helping someone space to say super clean, and they love it, and they show up with so much love. And they say the great masters of this world, they say, achieve enlightenment and sweep the floors. Go back to your life. you know? And so we need to stop getting so tripped up and looking around and judging the things that we're doing based on what we see other people doing. It's like, if you're happy and you're content and you're fulfilled in your life, you've found your purpose.
Yes.
That's it. It doesn't have to be connected to some world-changing phenomenon. It can just be that you figured out a way to crack the code to be. I would rather be the happy, content, fulfilled guy that doesn't have a lot of material success than to be the wealthy guy that's absolutely fucking miserable and hates his life any day of the week.
Yes. That's powerful, brother. I love that. Yeah. So, and in what you were saying, I felt this beautiful release within myself, even because it's something that I've come to realize. In the past, I used to think I had to accumulate a certain amount of money, reach a certain status in my career in order to be a success, in order to be purposeful. But now it's a moment-to-moment thing. You know, you're purposeful in a moment. You're successful moment to moment when you choose to be. You know, you only have to be successful right now because really that's all we have. So
100%, man.
It's an illusion. I love it.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Brian, look, I'm so grateful to have you as a mentor, and I'm so glad I invested in your program and just, you know, took a leap of faith with you. And it's been absolutely a gift for me. Very, very grateful because I'm very passionate about the work I do as well. Very similar missions. How can people get in contact with you and find out more about what you do?
Sure. So my Instagram is kind of like my main platform where I do communication with most people for outreach. It's just at breathwork.journey. It's very easy to remember. My website, breathmasters.academy, if anybody's out there that's, you know, wants that or is inspired to pursue breathwork and get on the path and get certified and share this medicine with the world, that's where that is. And those are the two main places to connect. Brian@yogilab.com if anybody wants to email me directly about anything.
Thank you, brother. So powerful. Question I ask all my guests as well. Imagine you got access to the biggest, like the behind the scenes of the biggest platforms in the world, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you could share a message with the world for 1 minute. Everyone's eyes are on you, billions and billions of people. This was your moment. And all eyes were on you. What's the message that you would want people to hear at this point in time?
Look, new mantra. Look how far you've come and you're still here. Never give up. Follow your highest excitement. And no matter what, love yourself unconditionally. You follow that, you've won on every level of life. That's
Beautiful,
it.
Brother. Thank you, Brian. Look, I appreciate you being here so much. Thank you for the work you do. I am very excited to continue to learn from you into the future and look forward to meeting you in person one day. I know it's going to happen.
Pleasure, my brother. Thank you for having me, Nash. Thanks for your service as well, man.
My great pleasure.